Hi, I'm Stephen with AlbertaUrbanGarden.ca. On the last episode in this series, we touched on raised bed gardening for beginners. We give you some indication of where to put your bed, how to build it, how to fill it, and mulch it. On today's episode, we're going to go through planning your very first garden. We left off having just filled the beds with great soil and mulched them. It's time to plan your garden, and on today's episode, Alexander and I are going to take you through the process we go through every year.
Make a list of the plants you want to grow.
Making a list your first year can be a daunting task. Start by listing the fruits and vegetables you enjoy eating. Pick out plants that are annuals. Annuals are fruits and vegetables that only produce in the first year and then die out. Perennials are plants that once planted will come back year after year. Usually you don't want to move them once in place. By picking annuals in your first year, you can learn how to grow things without having to commit to perennials if you don't want to. If you have kids, it's a good time to think about what they may want to snack on in the garden. Now it's time to go to your preferred online seed store for some information. Generally speaking, I go to rareseeds.com and westcoastseeds.com.
Mark ones that need to be started early in the house.
Some plants will need to be started in the house, or you can purchase the plants from a local greenhouse. It is usually much cheaper to start your own plants in a south-facing window or under shop lights. To find out which plants need to be started inside, online vendors or the back of the seed package will give some recommendations on when to plant the crop. I generally write these dates down on my list, so I start them on time. You may need to adjust the dates if your last frost date is different than what's found on the back of the seed package. If you're not sure what your last frost date is, quickly search your community with the terms last frost date beside it. Usually, it's fairly quick to find.
Draw out a diagram of your garden.
I am by no means an artist, but I find drawing out my garden on paper helps me visualize the plants and what kind of space I'll have available. It's also easier to bring a notebook with my plants out into the garden, and it makes it easier to keep previous year's garden plans and lessons in the same place. I usually use pencil, so as I work through the list, I can make changes if I need to. I usually use the square foot gardening planting recommendations in my garden, so I section off the areas to represent a 1 foot by 1 foot area. I have found that this method allows me to grow a wide variety of crops in a relatively small area.
Find out where the sunniest spot in your garden is.
We spoke about this in the last episode, but generally speaking, the north side of your property will get the most sun in the summer as it faces south. Once you have figured out the sunniest spot in your garden, it's time to start planning.
Take note of the expected height of the plants, making sure not to shade any.
It is a good idea to start with larger plants like tomatoes, or any plants that require a larger space or a trellis to grow. Crops like indeterminate tomatoes will continue to grow all summer long, and anything on the north side of them will get shaded as the plant grows. Other taller plants will cast shadows like sunflowers and corn, and anything behind a trellis with climbing crops like cucumbers or peas will be shaded as well. This may not be a bad thing. The seed information will tell you if the plant needs full sun, which is generally 8+ hours a day of direct sun, or if the plant can live or prefers partial shade, which is generally less than 6 hours of direct sunlight. Some plants love shade like lettuce and herbs, whereas some are tolerant of shade like strawberries but prefer full sun. Once you have placed the taller plants, or the ones that require more space or a trellis, you can place the less picky plants, like onions and carrots, in the remaining spots.
And look at the days to harvest.
This number will let you know how long after you plant the crop in your garden you can expect to have your first harvest. Some crops will produce once, like root crops and some berries, while other crops can continue to produce, like lettuce and peas. If you have a short season like I do, it's good to select the plant varieties that have a short days to harvest so you can have the best chance of success. Now that you've finished your plan, it's time to pick the varieties of plants you want to grow. Once you have the varieties you are going to plant, you can finish off the list of when to plant each crop. The ones that can be planted directly into the garden can vary in time frame from as soon as the soil is workable, like peas, all the way until you can direct sow things like melons in June. With the crops that I have selected this year, I will have something to plant every 2 or 3 weeks, from now until June. It is time to follow your garden plan and planting schedule that you've set for yourself. Soon enough, you'll have your very own crops that you grew all by yourself at home. Thank you very much for spending time with me today. I appreciate it very much, and I hope you have a fantastic day.